will be discussing with us some of the findings and way forward. We are going to, our topic for today is preparedness of the National Electoral Commission. I'm adding national myself, but it is the Electoral Commission preparedness for the 2021 elections. Joining us online through Zoom is our colleague, Honorable Margaret Mohanga, MP for Burahaya. Is Margaret online? There she is. I can see her. Say hello.
Hello.
Good evening, and how are you doing, Margaret?
I am fine, thank you. Good evening to all our viewers and the listeners. I'm happy to be back on Behind the Headlines. Thank you, Charles.
I want to put it to you that you have enjoyed this show more than all of us. You participate actively, you watch, you contribute from the comfort of whether it is your sitting room or your kitchen, but you are with us.
I could even be in bed.
You said that. Good.
Good.
We are waiting for, we are expecting to have the chairman of Electoral Commission here or his representative, whatever is happening, but we're not going to wait for latecomers. The show must begin. Hope that they join us in due course. So let's begin. Sarah, from you moved across the country as new you, and the primary elections of the NRM has been billed as a national election in itself, and in fact, the director of communication was here last week, and he said they even have more number of polling stations that were having these elections, and so we can discuss the challenges that bedeviled the NRM in their elections and the entire process. We can discuss it as a national structural thing, and then we look at what we really picked from there and going forward, whether or not we should be worried, whether or not we should be hopeful, optimistic, and what can we say should be those things that should be put in place within the next 5 months so that we don't have an election that is tainted by either corruption, bribery, or just malfunctioning of systems. So start us off. Do you think, let me start by asking you a simple thing. From what you observed, do you think we are prepared as a country to go into a general election?
Yeah, thank you very much, Charles. First of all, I don't want to imagine that the disorganization in NRM primaries is what will characterize the general elections, or the lack of preparation by the Electoral Commission of NRM should not be construed to mean lack of preparation on behalf of the Electoral Commission that Justice Byabakama chairs. But what are the implications of the NRM, if I may, since we have enough social distancing, if I may take off the mask? What are the implications of the NRM primaries on the 2021 elections? The NRM primaries, first of all, these are elections that were held with no register, meaning that there was no means of identifying who a voter is. Even people who were campaigning did not know who to reach out to ask for votes. That marked the confusion. And even a situation where you have no register, you should not even conduct an election. We saw the directive issued by the chairman of the party that overran the powers of the chairman of the Electoral Commission in NRM, yet the constitution of NRM presumes that the chair of the Electoral Commission is independent and should not take any directives from any of the parties. So that was, one, there was a legal abuse of the NRM constitution. Two, there was a total abuse of what constitutes an election. lack of a register, and that marked the chaos that we witnessed countrywide. Even NRM does not know whether the people who participated in their election are their members or not. We see allegations of other parties having participated from the NRM leaders themselves. Away from the conduct, the lining up itself violates the known international standards of what an election should be. There was no secret ballot. The voters were susceptible to violence. If families, some women could not turn up to vote because their husbands wanted them to vote particular candidates that they did not support. And with lining up, the nature of violence that happened was predicted to happen. That's why civil society organizations had gone to court, even during the LC elections that were characterized by lining up. That's why we attempted to stop them in court. But unfortunately, our constitution gives parliament powers to determine the nature of elections other than the presidential and parliamentary. Under Article 68(7), it's only the presidential and parliamentary elections that must be held by secret ballot. So during the local government elections, Parliament decided that they could be held by lining up, which is really not a standard of an election in a democratic country. So away from the two elements, then we saw abuse of money and open voter bribery. People were openly dishing out money, even at polling stations, which is illegal. You know, people lining up and candidates saying, if you must vote for so and so, here is the money. You know, in lines, we have so many videos where people are dishing out money to voters in lines. Open voter bribery. Was this pervasive across the country? No, there were some countries. There were some parts of the country. We can't say it was all over the country. But throughout the campaigning, there was open bribery. Open bribery, you know, it was like an auction. I think an auction is what best describes the NRM election. Where the highest bidder takes the vote.
The highest bidder takes it. Let me, before I bring it to your colleagues. So in your report, I saw you the other Sunday, no, last week actually, handing over a report. Did you communicate this to Electoral Commission? Have you made a report with recommendations and told Electoral Commission that, I mean the National Electoral Commission, that these are what we found out, these are the challenges we met, and these are what we think you can write?
Charles, what we observed were NRM primaries. Yes. We are also observing primaries of other parties. FDC has held primaries in a few areas. Yeah. NUP is holding what they have described as vetting, and we have seen some elements of chaos, I think, in two areas. UPC is holding selected primaries in a few areas, mainly in Lango, because that's where they have a bit of competition. The Alliance for National Transformation is also doing vetting process with their guidelines, and we are monitoring. DP is holding primaries mainly in the central region, because that's where they have competition, and they might not be in other parts of the country. So we are observing all the primary elections for all the political parties. The reports we are doing for parties will be submitted to the respective political parties. They are not going to Electoral Commission, because this is not an Electoral Commission exercise. It's internal political party primaries. But
wouldn't they benefit from some of the findings, some of them which really look like this, if you get trends that are really looking national in character, wouldn't Electoral Commission, the national one, benefit from some of those findings?
We can share them as a by the way, but that's away from the reporting process of the Electoral Commission. And also I wish to add that the report that is supposed to be given to Electoral Commission is supposed to be done 6 months, within 6 months after the election.
Okay.
But we as new you will be doing bi-monthly reports, and we shall share them with those stakeholders for their information.
Okay. Honorable Abdu, you have participated in a lot of elections. You, of course, we have discussed here together with you the character, you know, of the participation, especially participants, and the nature of what happened in the primary elections of NRM so far. Sarah has talked about more primary elections coming up. Do you think that given their work as a national body, and we are not yet sure, given COVID, that we shall have fully fledged foreign observers? So most likely we shall rely on, you know, our own national observers in this case. Do you think that that will help our situation? And do you think that their work is a kind of work that Electoral Commission should benefit from?
Well, thank you, Charles. And I'd like to commend Sarah and her team for trying to assist this electoral process by trying to point out the challenges these parties are facing. I think that is commendable. In many countries, the civil society has helped grow democracies by trying to address the real issues in a non-partisan way. And we would really encourage them to continue doing what they have been doing. I think other than the NRM, all the other parties are having bigger challenges. I don't know whether you are calling them primaries, whether that is what is meant by primaries, where candidates are subjected to a process and internally they are vetted and voted. There has been some sprinkling of voting, of elections in other political parties. So it is not really quite easy to find out what exactly has gone on in other political parties other than the NRM, which has held what it looks like now a national exercise. What has happened in the NRM is like, in opinion poll language, they call it sample space of what will happen during the national elections. Let us look at what has happened. One, corruption, bribery of voters. Do you think the Justice Byabakama Commission now has the capacity to stop the bribery of voters at a national level more than what went on during the NRM primaries? Or we are going to have it even worse because the stakes actually will be higher. You either, when you lose at this point in primaries, there's still an opportunity for you to compete either as an independent, or you can even change to another political party and then win. If you lose in the national election, that's where it ends. So my own view, my well-considered opinion is we are going to, the worst is yet to come. We are going to see worse abuse of not only public resources, but also using private resources to influence the vote. So Sarah, don't think that this is going to stop at NRM primaries. It's going to continue. Two, falsification of results. Sarah should have realized, and even the NRM itself has confessed, that this process has been bedeviled with a lot of falsification of results. Where are you going to get these innocent, religious thinking people, God-fearing, who now will not falsify results? When you look at the history of elections in Uganda from 2001, 2006, 2011, and 2016, falsification of results has been consistent. And now, what we've seen in the NRM, which was actually literally a national election, there has been widespread of falsification of results. So I do expect more falsification of results during the national election. So the country should brace itself for that coming. Violence. Well, it is still the national police, the internal security, and the army that try to keep security during the national election. We are not going to get any other security officers. So you are going to have the same violence. This time it could even be more. Why? Because this was a primary, what we call a family competition. And yet you had that level of violence. Just imagine when they are now having inter-party, not inter-party competition. It's going to be more violent. And nobody can assure us that, look here, yes, in the NRM there was because we didn't deploy. Actually, they deployed. Are there lessons to learn? Yes. If people were acting in good faith, there could have been lessons to learn. Now, you know, I've had a few of my colleagues saying that they intend also to find a way of protecting their votes. And Charles, I would like to talk to the viewers, caution them that, you see, when one party seeks to rig election, it sort of triggers an antidote. Another party trying to see how it protects itself from the rigging. And that results into violence. 2 weeks ago, was it last week, when we had the honor of Anita here, last week. And you see, trying to explain to us the violence and so on. Now, you'll find one group which has access to state resources, human resources, with security equipment against the other. And sometimes using that equipment to mete out violence. You also have some groups organizing to protect themselves from state-inspired violence. So the country should brace itself for that. Obviously, all of us would wish a peaceful, free, and fair election, because this is a civic exercise where people should be elected freely. Leaders don't need to impose themselves on the people. And then the people would like to find legitimate leaders, people who have their mandate to lead them. That's the constitutional demand. And it is also good manners. Unfortunately, like I said last time, this country is not in a deficit of people with bad manners.
Okay. Let me first bring in Honorable Margaret Mohanga, all the way from on Zoom from Fort Portal. I need you to weigh in to Honorable Abdul Katuntu's pessimism, if I may say it so. You are from a vantage position where you are right now. You saw what happened. You see what is happening. You know how your government is operating in readiness for the elections. Are you more optimistic, Margaret, going forward, that the main election will be much better organized? Last week you described the primary elections of the NRM as bad elections, but one of the fundamental gaps that we had was no register. We are now going into an election where there is a register, save for other things that may remain uniform. Do you think that the next election will be better organized, that it will be violence-free, in your view?
Everybody. The only concern that people are raising maybe is that how prepared is the Electoral Commission to carry out this election? But otherwise, for me, I trust that the National Electoral Commission, as opposed to the NRM Electoral Commission, that is hand-picked at the 11th hour, just on the eve of elections, they were still looking for village registrars. But the Electoral Commission has got permanent staff, very well-trained staff, They have much money that the government appropriates to the Electoral Commission.
Was it about
The NRM had no money to carry out this election, and I think that's why they even chose the lining up, because the ballot papers were quite expensive for them to make. And so the election was susceptible to all these flaws that we saw. First of all, the lining up, all of us thought was going to sort out a lot of problems. It actually became a problem. The worst was voting without a register. Because if you ask everybody to vote, then what is the essence of having an election, a party election at all? Because everybody from other parties, even those who believe in no party, will come and line up and vote. That was the only flaw I can remember. First of all, the election was held countrywide. Not in every place. Every place didn't have violence. Violence was, I think, in isolated areas. I think it's Sinjiro, Ntungamo, and a few other places. Even in Kampala, a congested place, there weren't so many problems of violence and mayhem. I think the voting went on well in many places. Even here in Cameroon, I never saw anybody fight anybody. But the National Electoral Commission cannot face such hurdles. First of all, the NRM elections, you really can't compare, because everybody had to go and vote within a spate of 2 hours. The National Electoral Commission will put up its materials at polling stations by 7 o'clock. People will come in one by one, vote, and leave. The agents will remain to count the votes of their candidates. Up to 5 o'clock, voting will be taking place. And so it's more organized with ballot papers. Everybody will reach a station knowing what to do. There will be civic education, I am sure, on radios, on TVs, and many other medium of communication. But the NRM Electoral Commission did not train anybody. There was no civic education. Everyone was just going to a village to line up. Many people lined up when they did not even know who they were voting. They would come back and say, but is this the person I had gone to vote? Because nobody had trained them save for what the candidates had done to explain to people how the voting will take place. But you see, in this world, there's never been a real free and fair election. And I'm sure all of you know that.
Honorable Margaret, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Can we, based on what you have seen, what you have just said, can we say that the NRM recently concluded election was the best example of a bad election?
Yeah, just because of one thing, having no register. You cannot have an election when you don't know your voters. Let me tell you, Charles, for us, we had moved and known our definite voters that were in the register, because the registers were there. They were there, well-updated registers. The only thing that confused everybody is the last-minute letter from the president that said everyone who is an NRM member should vote. In between them lining up and being verified or vetted by the chairman of the NRM on the village, there was no time. Everybody showed up and just lined up. Even chairpersons of NRM were not on these stations to say this is not an NRM person. Please don't add them in the register. So everyone came and voted. That brought a lot of chaos. Had it not happened, I don't think all these irregularities would have happened. No, they wouldn't.
Okay, what would be, as a legislator, I'm sure as a legislator you are definitely interested in seeing better management, and you would want to win fair and square, and you know that you really defeated your opponent. But God forbid, if you lost as a politician, I'm sure you would want to lose and say, I lost also fairly. In that state, what message from the example you drew from the NRM's primary elections, What message would you want the Electoral Commission, National Electoral Commission, to take going forward?
I think the National Electoral Commission needs to organize better, have everything in place in time, display the registers so that people who cannot check their voting stations online can check their names at the polling stations where they normally vote from. That's very important for somebody to know that this is the station where I'm going to vote, other than walking from home and you reach a station and you're not in the register. I hope they will display the registers by October so that people know their voting stations. Remember, the NRM was carrying out an election on every village, but the National Electoral Commission has a smaller scope because theirs is actually 3 villages or sometimes 2 villages voting at one station. So they are much in a better position to carry out a credible election. They have the resources, they have the manpower, well-trained, well-educated on how to carry out an election. For us in the NRM, we were just hand-picking people. I saw registrars who could hardly even write. And you wonder who chose this person. Even counting alone was a problem. People counting babies on somebody's back, very unprofessional. It's like somebody appears with their baby at a polling station, you give two ballot papers. The National Electoral Commission will not do that. So we really expect a much better election, I believe.
Okay.
And with COVID, with social distancing, there will be enough checks and balances. This is the person who has come, they have fingerprinted, they've moved to the next stage. It will be well organized, as long as the players and political actors are willing to follow the guidelines. And I'm sure even the deployment in the National Electoral Commission by the security forces will be enough to protect vote rigging, to protect bribery, and so many other irregularities that are expected from a national election. Okay, good.
Let me bring it down to, back to the studio to Mr. Gobi. Do you think that optimism expressed by Margaret, who is herself an actor, is feasible from your observation, Mr. Gobi, at a national level, beyond just what Katuntu calls a family contest?
Bad manners. Thank you very much, Charles and Sarah, for giving us that update on what happened. First, Charles, as we saw last week, and Sarah has confirmed, NRM Electoral Commission was not ready for the election that they managed. The question we need to ask is, the Independent Electoral Commission ready? That's the first question which we need to answer. And in that readiness, we should measure it in terms of the entire electoral process. First and foremost, have they done enough in putting in place the necessary rules of the game, which are going to define how the electoral process is going to be conducted up to the day when they will declare the results? Unfortunately, we don't have Electoral Commission in the House to answer right away, but we need to put them in context.
As far as I'm concerned, I checked on the phone. The chairman confirmed, and we are still waiting. I don't know whether the chairman or the secretary is on the way coming, but they confirmed they're coming.
All right. Then secondly,
well,
the register.
How ready they are.
Stop it. Secondly, Charles.
Okay, we shall discuss that.
We need to look at the voter register.
Yeah.
Is the NRM didn't have a register.
Mm-hmm.
We have been told you that we have a national register. Is that register comprehensive enough to give us the comfort that it will be enough for us to get a good result, a good election, in other words. That's also something I'm not sure about. Thirdly, vote education. How much has the Electoral Commission carried out voter civic education? Because I am a very good active participant, at least in watching television and listening to radio and reading newspapers and also watching how the public is behaving, I am not certain that actually Ugandans have been well prepared to engage in this election. Then we shall come to the other end of the process by looking at, because there are some perennial challenges the Electoral Commission in Uganda has been facing. The dispatchment of voter materials, these election materials. They have been historically late in dispatching materials. In some of the areas here, even in urban areas, the materials reached the polling stations about 5 hours later than when they were supposed to start voting. We have seen this also happening in the NRM. Okay, like Honorable Margaret has told us that they were very, very unprepared and disorganized. We need to use the benchmark and see about this. And this issue, by the way, of the vote education is so important because last election of 2016, the invalid votes were nearly 500,000, 477,000 plus. Actually, they were higher than 6 candidates who participated in the presidential election combined, what they scored. You know, so many Ugandans reach the voting day when they don't know what to do. Are we ready this time round? We need to look at these other factors which have inflicted the NRM election and use them as a benchmark for the national election, but for not repeating them. Things of which I think Honorable Katutu has talked about, the violence, the corruption, but also the delayed declaration of results. Like now, there are some people who voted in the NRM elections, and up to now, they don't know who their candidate is. They are Tango Doi and his team are saying they are still recounting. I don't know how this recounting is done. What are they recounting? The footprints?
When people lined up.
Because, you know, there were no ballots. So what are you recounting? You're going to recount where people stood? What do you do? So all these things need to be really put into context.
I think what maybe to play the devil's advocate here, I think from following what is going on, there have been reports or allegations and accusations that many of the, are they called registrars, the returning officers, so to speak, many of these election officials of the NRM were compromised by some actors, some candidates, and they tinkered or played around with the DRA forms, the declaration result forms. And so you find that the lining was okay. There were indeed 120 people in the line, and 110 voted for this side, the other 10 voted for the other candidate. But then when it came to now entering the results, you find instead of 110, someone writes 1 this side, so it becomes 1,110. And in a village which does not have 200 people, you see. So what they are now doing, what Tango Doi is doing, from what I am gathering, and I am being told as a journalist, is that they are now looking at the declaration forms, which they assume to be correct. That this is what we had in the village, and then they are cross-checking against the village details and statistics, and then saying there is no way this village would have had 2,000 people. there must have been a problem here. That's what I'm told they're doing.
All right. So those are the things we need to understudy now, and so that in the future we don't face the same challenges. Finally, there is an issue which the Electoral Commission needs really to address: the incumbency factor. Over years, I've been following these elections. Sometimes justifiably, or other times usually unjustifiably, people believe or think that the Electoral Commission favors the incumbent in the way they manage the process, by giving the incumbency more, for example, space to campaign, more time, and not attending to the complaints of the other candidates, in as far as, for example, they have access to resources like media, also police, sometimes unfairly dispersing their voters, I mean their supporters. Now this is a scientific election, where most of the that thin line which is going to separate the state's responsibility of ensuring that they enforce the SOPs for COVID, and also deliberately harassing or making it difficult for the opposition candidates to participate effectively in the election, is going to be really the litmus test for the Electoral Commission, in my view.
Okay. The rightly so brings us to that time when we must take a break. Let's go for that break right now, and hopefully when we come back, chairman or someone from Electoral Commission will have joined us. I'm saying hopefully because I haven't got any information to the contrary from the Electoral Commission that they are not participating. The information I know is that they confirmed that they are going to participate, and the chairman himself confirmed that he was coming to participate in this discussion, chairman of Electoral Commission. But let's go for that break, and the discussion is how ready is Electoral Commission, the National Electoral Commission of Justice Simon Mujenyi Byabakama, ready for the 2021 elections. If you want to join us, you can join us, and there are a number of platforms on which we are bringing to you this discussion. On social media, you can get us through or participate through UBC TV, that's on Facebook, on YouTube, or through UBC Television, Uganda, that's on YouTube. And we are also live on Magic 100 FM and over 5 radio stations across the country. When you check on the screen in front of you, you can see the different radio stations across the country that are broadcasting this program running right now. So you don't miss, be part of this discussion, and send us your message, and we shall share them here and respond to them. Let's go for that break right now.
COVID-19 is a disease caused by the new coronavirus. Know the symptoms. They include fever, coughing, muscle pain, shortness of breath. What can you do? Wash your hands frequently with soap and water for 20 seconds or use an alcohol-based hand rub. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth with a tissue or flexed elbow. Discard tissues into a closed bin and then wash your hands. Maintain a distance of at least 1 meter between yourself and someone who is ill. Seek medical help if you display symptoms. Wear a mask if you are coughing or sneezing, or if you are caring for someone who is sick. Dispose of your masks into a closed bin and then wash your hands. Check trusted sources regularly for accurate information. Remember, the best prevention is to keep yourself healthy and follow these safe steps.
Under the net, no mosquito will bite. Under the net, no malaria will catch. Under the net, you can save a life.
What time is it, children?
It is bedtime.
And to prevent malaria, it is also
Under the net time.
Uganda. Together, let us chase malaria to zero. Sleep under the net every night.
Keeping malaria-free is your personal responsibility, and zero malaria starts with you and me. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
You can save a life.
Welcome back from that break, and this is Behind the Headlines, and the topic for our discussion this evening: how ready is the Electoral Commission for the 2021 elections? The topic has reminded me, Honorable Abdu has made me laugh, that this is how ready the Electoral Commission is, and I'm told the guest is around the corner, and he or she should be joining us very shortly, and there are already a pile of questions, a pile of comments, a number of issues that the guests should start responding to as and when they come on the show. Honorable Abdu, I know that let's come back to some of the issues that your colleagues have raised. You are the persons who have participated in this election. Share with us, in terms of your experience, faced with, if you were faced to, and you are a participant as a candidate, and you come across, you know, challenges like maybe voters do not know where to go, for whatever reason, voter education, civic education not done well, and you know that Electoral Commission cannot help your votes. What should the candidate do? What would you do in the ideal?
First of all, under the law, it's the Uganda Human Rights Commission charged with the responsibility of civic education. And every year we appropriate some funds to the commission to try and perform that statutory obligation. It's supposed to be a continuous process, not just 1 or 2 months to elections. Elections are just like 5 months away. And tell me that it's now that they are going to start conducting civic education. That's very, very unfortunate. This should have been a continuing process to have a conscious population that knows its rights, to have a conscious population that appreciates this process and how important it is to the socio-economic development of the country, to its own welfare, to elect leaders who are well-informed about the economics, the politics, and everything regarding their own country. That the Human Rights Commission has really, really failed. But because we've got structural challenges, like today.
But are you saying Electoral Commission does not have any role at all?
It does. It does. It does. It does. There is no doubt. But I'm talking about the main agency. It's the Human Rights Commission. But the Electoral Commission, even then, they have a smaller department. It's supposed to be doing what we call voter education. Yeah, it's a small education, voter education, not civic education. Even that, I don't give them much credit. And they are just waiting for the last 2, 4, 5 weeks. That's when you'll find them running a few programs. And at that time, I think it might be too little, too late. But there are things which I don't want to be like an apologist of a system. You know, the issue really is not even voter education. The issue is we have sometimes outright criminality. Some people forging declaration forms. And what you are going to have during the general elections are the very actors, the very participants, those who will have forged the declaration forms and the results and have been declared winners in the NRM are the very ones who are now going to participate as candidates and as agents in the general election. And if they see that nobody has made it expensive for them to do it, they'll do it again. Because some of them, you're going to see they have carried the, are they forged results? They have carried the stolen victory and they have been endorsed by the only party. So what you are going to have, Charles, is these very characters are going to participate in the national election carrying a party flag which they actually stole. You tell me, under what circumstances do you expect such fraudsters now to be, because the word fraudsters is actually, when you read President Museveni's tweet, he refers to them as fraudsters. These fraudsters, if they are now carrying a party flag, when do you expect them now to become God-fearing and they will start behaving decently? They'll continue with the same behavior. So I am very, very pessimistic about it. My brother Ramadan says that, you know, the Electoral Commission has been favoring incumbents. I beg to differ. I think the correct description should have been, it has been favoring those who belong to the ruling party. Because it is well known, it's not a secret that the opposition has had it very rough to even engage the public to explain their programs. Every meeting, public meeting, which the opposition has tried to engage for purposes of explaining their political program has been stopped throughout. How do you choose the incumbents? It's about those who are supporting the ruling government and those who are in the opposition. I think the opposition has had a raw deal, what we call the level playing field. I think the opposition has not had that route. It has been their cry literally every day, level playing field. Then you have got a partisan security apparatus. People who have failed to distinguish between the political party in power and the state. They think the political party is part of the state. And they do everything to promote the political party against other political parties, imagining that if they do that, then they are stabilizing the state. So it is not about incumbents. It is about the ruling party as versus the opposition. If I may remember what Sarah said, she thinks that other parties are going through also some other process. It's not a process to be proud of. I think they are not going through elections. A few areas, they are going through.
They're doing selections.
They are doing some selections. I know some parties where you've had candidates and their headquarters have sat and picked one candidate without consulting the Electoral College, which is supposed to vote under their constitution. So many ugly things are happening, even within other political organizations. But because the exercise of the NRM was so big, the public seemed to have had its attention attracted to the NRM one, and actually did it. And I expected people like Sarah to be saying, no, this is not what we expect, because this is not what your party constitution say. More than us discussing on the NRM. There's other challenges being faced by political parties and candidates, which should be subject to public debate.
Maybe Sarah should take it on from there, because those are very serious issues that Honorable Abdul Katuntu raises. Because when we are, if we are even expecting the Electoral Commission to do something which is wholesomely good, it has to include something for NRM that takes care of NOP, that takes care of FDC, DP, UPC, and all these other parties. You see my argument. And therefore, we expect all those parties to be doing something which, like you said, a proper election should be composed of. So how do you, are you ensuring that that is also captured and that is going to form part of the broader discussion for the whole country?
Can I, as she comes in, also ask one question?
Yeah.
Just a couple of weeks ago, Parliament passed a legal authorization for creation of new constituencies.
Yes, about 47, 46.
Yes. How can Electoral Commission now, that one which Margaret says is ready to do a good job, now try to organize these new constituencies? You know, just a few weeks when they had already even closed voter updates, they had closed demarcations. That's why when they were saying that they are not going to allow those who had turned 18 to vote, that was last December. But now they have opened it up, because now they have created new constituencies. They are going to create new voting areas and centers. How can they say they are actually ready? And then isn't this gerrymandering?
Yeah, thank you, Charles and Honorable Katuntu. Let me start with the issue of other political parties. As new
and their own conduct.
Yes, and the way they are conducting their internal processes. As new first of all, we cannot pronounce ourselves on a process we have not completed monitoring. We are monitoring the internal processes of other parties, and for the NRM, we issued a preliminary report. We are going to issue the comprehensive monitoring report for NRM primaries on 30th September.
30th of this month.
Yes. So we are still updating the preliminary report that we issued. For the other parties, once they finish their process, we shall also issue preliminary statements. The guidelines or standards governing election observation, you do not speak without evidence. You do not speak about a process you have not completed, observing. So Honorable Katuntu, yes, we have reservations on what the other political parties are doing, but we shall issue an official statement. The things they are doing that are contrary to their party constitutions, that are contrary to their own set guidelines, we shall pronounce ourselves on those practices.
Good.
So going back to the EC, are they ready to conduct elections? Our topic of the day. On 30th August this year, Electoral Commission issued a statement that they are redemarcating constituencies. In this process, it means that actually we do not have a voter register as we talk today. And we are aware that...
Is that the implication of the statement they made?
Yes. When you are redemarcating constituencies, there are new town councils that have been formed. Yeah. There are new parishes that have been formed. Electoral Commission is moving voters, is changing polling stations, and we risk having no final voters register. Yet elections are already ongoing for special interest group elections. And it's unfortunate that the chairman has not come here. So as we talk today, the Electoral Commission is in the same position as the NRM party fund itself. We don't have a register because of the crisis of new constituencies, new parishes, new towns, new polling stations. Voters don't know where they are going to be voting from. The people who are going to be moved might miss out voting because of the confusion caused from Parliament and the Electoral Commission. Yet the Constitution states that formation of new constituencies, new administrative units should happen 2 years after census. We last did census in 2014.
Yeah.
But Parliament has gone on creating new entities unconstitutionally. I know there is a group preparing an election petition on the creation of new administrative units in Uganda contrary to provisions of the Constitution, way after the census has been done.
You mean a constitutional petition?
Yes.
Not election petition?
A constitutional petition challenging all the new administrative units created by Parliament unconstitutionally. So that the crisis starts from Parliament, and the Electoral Commission, once Parliament approves new constituencies, Electoral Commission has to firefight because Parliament has already created seats. They have already created excitement within the population.
So that part would not be a mistake of Electoral Commission. Electoral Commission is just now being bombarded with
decisions already passed by the legislators.
And for them, they have to fall in line in order to...
No, not necessarily. They should be able to advise. Say what you are doing is unconstitutional.
You are a senior legislator, and you have sat on the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee.
I'm the longest serving in the history of this country.
I beg your pardon?
I am the longest serving member of that committee in the history of this
country. Good. By practice, do you think that the advice of Electoral Commission is taken up by that committee?
I reserve my answer.
So if I may conclude on this point, also we have the confusion on the biometric machines. We have had the president on several occasions saying that I don't know whether he ordered sacking or whatever happened to the officials because of the controversy concerning the biometric machines. In the 2016 election petition, Amama Mbabazi versus President Museveni, it was discovered that the biometric machines used then had no capacity to host the voters' register or have data of voters saved on those machines. So we have been told now by the Fountain of Honor that the Electoral Commission is finally upgrading the machines. But we don't know whether the nature of biometric system that is now going to be used has capacity to host the whole voters register and has capacity to back up data of voters used so that it can be used whenever needed, especially in election petitions. So even that is a kind of update that we should hear about from the Electoral Commission. And if you look at the nomination dates, nomination of local council offices is 21st September. This is 1 week.
21st September, that's 1 week from not
today.
Even 1 week.
Yes, and the Electoral Commission is still redemarcating.
Today is the 16th, so it is just about 5 days away.
They are still redemarcating constituencies. They don't have a final voters register in place. Nomination of MPs is mid-October, and then presidential candidates early November. We do not have a final voters register. We do not know the kind of voting we are going to use in terms of this biometric system. We do not have tangible voter education going on. In our interface with the Electoral Commission, we were told that they got a budget of 800 million to do voter education countrywide. And this goes back to Parliament. What can you do with 800 million in terms of voter education in 137 districts? That's peanuts. And they said they were stuck, that Parliament does not appropriate enough money for voter education. So these are the challenges that we have with our electoral system. And I think all stakeholders need to take responsibility where they have fallen short. But also, another element that we could compare from the primaries of NRM and especially the past 2016 elections, where we had no national tally center. We have seen confusion and victory of people disappearing at tally centers, several tally centers countrywide within NRM primaries. But we also saw a situation in 2016 where the Electoral Commission did not have a functional national tally center. Nambole was empty. Computers were empty. So what different preparation is this Electoral Commission doing for 2021 elections?
Okay, Honorable Margaret, I need to bring you in here at this point because, hello, Honorable Margaret? Honorable Margaret Mohanga, you expressed a lot of optimism about the National Electoral Commission, and here comes expressions of doubt by Sarah and a team that is practically observing what is going on, and they're working closely with the Electoral Commission to ensure that some of these gaps are addressed. Today is the 16th of September. In actual sense, we are left with 4 months. We are left with October, November, December, and elections are in January, aren't they? The elections are supposed to be in January this time. Between
February, but the date can only be pronounced after nomination. That's what the law says.
Okay, so let's talk about, we are really basically left with 4 months. And Sarah, who is part of the monitoring team, NUU, that is working closely with the Electoral Commission, is enumerating a number of potential gap areas. What do you say to that as even a sitting legislator?
I think Sarah needs to go on the website of the National Electoral Commission. If you try to check your voter voting station, you go to their link, you put in just your NIN number, it will bring everything about you. Actually, what amused me so much and impressed me and made me very optimistic that these people will have a good election is that the new area, my new electoral area, is already demarcated. You see, they are not getting new areas from Kenya. 4 sub-counties were carved off from my constituency called Brasha County and next to Fort Portal Tourism City. Now, the new constituency where I am running is called Fort Portal North Division. So if I put in my NIN number in the link, it simply brings Fort Portal North Division. Everything has already been done, by the way, by the Electoral Commission. What they have done is that every parish, every parish has about 2 polling stations. So the moment you demarcate a new electoral area, nothing changes. All you need is to simply know that these polling stations have fallen into this constituency or district. Now, Fort Portal Tourism City is a district equivalent. And so they will have a woman MP voted for by Central and North Division. Immediately you put in that link on the Electoral Commission portal. It brings everything, Fort Portal Tourism City, Fort Portal North Division. Nothing has changed. It is so easy that even in Jinja, where you see a city, or in Barara, where 2 constituencies have been formed, new ones, immediately you go to their portal, you find that they have already demarcated those constituencies very well, because there is no new territory that has come into Uganda. It is within the territories that they've been dealing with. The only question that we should have right now is voter education, because people up to now keep learning new things. Voter education is very important. And a free and fair election does not happen anywhere in the world. If you look at the law that America enacted in 2002, Help Americans Vote Act, it was a result of the election of 2000 where George Bush and I'll go and wait for a recount in Florida. So you can see a democracy of over 250 years still struggling to enact laws to fit into their system of voting, vote rigging in Florida. Most of you remember that. And so even here in Uganda, we keep going to the new normal, the new electoral areas, the new constituencies, the new voters, the fresh voters that are turning 18. What Electoral Commission used to do is that automatically anybody who turns 18 from the national, from NERA, is immediately incorporated into the voters register. But at one point, some people were not automatically brought into the national register of the Electoral Commission, which is an error because these two were linked. Most of the people who became voters actually were in the national, were in NERA, and NERA transferred all this information to the National Electoral Commission. And that's how they got their voters register well set last time we went for polls. And in the case of now, I have been talking to the Electoral Commission as a candidate. We keep asking, are you adding new names? Because of what we have seen in the NRM election. We are also concerned, and the National Electoral Commission has said they are not adding anybody. The register that exists is online. So everybody can go online, punch in your constituency, and it will bring every voter, and you can know who your voters are by numbers, even by face, and by name, because all these things exist online. The only thing is that what about those who cannot go online? You know, there are even political actors and political players who have no knowledge of the internet. They have no knowledge of the .com era. They are still in analog. So those ones will have a problem in trying to know who their voters are. But these are public offices. People should walk to the Electoral Commission and ask. For instance, if somebody is going to run for an election in Shema North, how many voters do I have? It is public information that somebody must get. But I am sure the National Electoral Commission will display these registers so that people can know where their voting stations are. I'm very sure they will do that because normally after nominations, they display registers, people go and check for their names, and off we go. That's why I'm really optimistic that there will be a good election, a better election than ever before, because there won't be any stampeding in this election. Also, the other thing you need to note, my fellow panelists and guests, is that the NRM is a mass party. You cannot compare it to these small parties who have 20 people in a village or none in most places. The NRM has got so many people in every village across the country. So our election is like a national election, even much better. Because 80% of the people who have won this election of NRM will win even the national election. So that gives you a perspective that the election, however, in spite of the few problems here and there, gives a perspective of what will happen even in the national election. Very few people will lose their flags. Those ones will be around Kampala, Wakiso, and a few places around northern Uganda. But in western Uganda, the election is finished.
Margaret, can I follow up some? Can I make some follow-up questions?
But that's the truth. We need to listen to the truth, because it has been happening since 2006 when we went multi-party. Now, that most flag bearers from NRM strongholds will always win an election.
Let me make some follow-up questions. Yes, it's true. The NRM is nationally spread as a ruling party. Are you saying that the NRM election or its structure is bigger than the national throughout Uganda?
Not really.
Exactly.
Not really. It cannot be bigger,
Yes,
Because
and that's
if
why...
you look at, let me talk about the place where I have interest. In Fort Portal North Division,
Yeah.
I have 25,000 voters in the National Electoral Commission.
Yeah.
In the NRM register, there were 22,000. So it's just short of 3,000 people, meaning it's more or less the same, because 25,000 and 22,000 really is a small margin.
Okay.
Yes. And so that gives you at least it gives you a good mathematics for you to know that even if I win over those 3,000, if I got 10,000 votes, then the 3,000 is so small. If you could pull out about 1,000. And also, note that 60% of the voters turn out to vote. Some people are not in this area, they shifted. Others will be in the area, but will have other commitments. Maybe they will be sick. Maybe they will be attending to other functions, and they may not come to vote.
Good. Another follow-up question. You talked about celebrating, and for which we should be happy, that you can check for your details updated on through internet. The last time we were discussing, Honorable Margaret, and I know that yes, internet spread has gone wider than it was 5 years ago when the last election was held. But right now, I think if I'm informed, we have only about 42% internet penetration in Uganda. Now, doesn't that mean that still the biggest majority, a bigger segment of the Ugandan population, 48%, are not still reached by internet? But even then, internet in itself has its own shortcomings, problems of power. The entire northern Uganda is complaining, apart from Lira, that we can't access power. We have like a whole week of load shedding. So how are you going to tell my mother in the village, my old people in Nebi, in Parombo, that go and check through internet? How is that even effective at all, Margaret?
No, what I actually meant is that for people who can have access to internet, can check their names. And remember, I also stated that the National Electoral Commission should put up the registers for people to check their names. And I am sure they will do that. Because after every nomination of candidates, these registers are always displayed. And this display takes about a week or so, or more than a week, for people who cannot access their voting stations on the internet to move to these stations, check if their names exist. And I'm sure they will do that.
Okay.
Because they always do it.
Okay, good optimism there. Mr. Gobi, following up, do you think that those are workable solutions for our problem, Uganda?
First of all,
from when I look at my time, we are almost going to 11:30. I am beginning to think that we should forget about this Electoral Commission guys. Either they feared or something terribly happened. I think I will have to cross-check with the chairman or even the PR people, but I think we need to go ahead with the discussion minus them at this point.
I want Charles to first comment about this thing, the fuss around the new constituencies. I'm not a politician, I'm not a gerrymander
gerrymander.
But
or an apologist for this.
Yes, assume this is Nakawa. I stay in Nakawa.
Yes.
This is Nakawa, and there have been several. Let me borrow this water. I don't know whether the cameraman will be able to capture
Cameraman,
this.
please focus on this. Teachers used like teaching with illustration.
Yes. And these are polling,
cameraman, focus on this Nakawa here.
These are polling stations in Nakawa.
Start with one. It was one.
It was, this is Nakawa.
Yes.
The whole of it.
Yeah.
And these were the polling stations.
Yeah.
And now these people sat in Parliament, Honorable Katuntu and others, and divided it into two. And they said this is Nakawa East,
Nakawa West.
Nakawa West.
Yeah.
And now these polling stations this side, they are in Nakawa East.
Yeah.
These ones are in Nakawa West.
Yeah.
How is that a problem that it's going to cause a lot of confusion?
Do the citizens in Nakawa East who thought this was Nakawa have a right to say, well, now that this thing has been divided up, I prefer being the other side?
No, you look.
We have said, in addition,
do they?
Not just preferring Honorable Katuntu. In fact, let's say
I think there's so many things
voter Charles
not thought about.
Voter Charles
wants to vote.
Voter Charles has been voting, let's say, the other side of your table, and then now the new register, he finds that he goes to the polling station and finds his name is no longer there.
No.
So he has to go to another side of Nakawa.
I've demonstrated practically. We have cut here. So you are no longer belonging this side. You are now belonging this side
geographically.
Yes.
That is geographically.
Yes.
But you know, on paper, the details might be different from what is geographically done.
No, which paper? You mean my ID I have, national ID, I'm going to use to vote?
No, not
even the national ID.
Yeah, this is now where the Electoral Commission works with the NILA to say that all of those names which have been, if this was the Seka Tower, you now vote from Seka Tower. It's called the Seka Tower polling station in Machindi. This is Seka Tower.
Yeah.
All of the voters who have been in Seka Tower now belonging to Machindi, I mean to Nakawa East. And the new register is printed with that polling station belonging to this. Does that create a problem?
It does. You see, let me in.
Yeah.
Voters are not just allocated.
They choose.
They choose where to belong. So if it's not about, so we've cut like this, now you're a voter here, you are not a voter here. No. You register purposely to vote in a particular area. So once you divide up and you say you now belong here, by virtue of you there, then you've chosen where I'm supposed to vote from. Because the original constituency was that one, and I chose to be. Now it is divided. I now have to choose whether I want to be the other side or this side. I choose where to stand, actually, even if I'm what? A candidate.
Yes,
whether to stand the other
like
side or the other side. So you cannot now say, we've divided up now, you a voter this side.
Because that can be that can be another way of disenfranchising the voters.
Because you wanted to belong to the other side.
Because you are surprising them, and because of poor voter education, they will come on the day of voting and find their names not where they had chosen. Then they will not know.
Nobody has got
Some will actually, like I saw in the last election, in Tinda here, in Nakawa division, some will, when especially the old, they will come and they have planned and thought, I am coming to vote at 10, at 11 I have to go for my business for the day.
Then they tell them.
Or a mother comes and leaves the child home and says, let me rush quickly by 7, 8 when they open, I vote. They don't find their name there. They are not going to now move to Nakawa Market. They will just go home and will never vote. That's what happens actually.
Okay.
Charles, I wanted to read briefly, sorry, Doctor. Briefly, what the Electoral Commission shared in their statement, the press release for demarcation of parliamentary constituencies and local government areas for 2021 elections. In brief, what they do is they conduct consultative meetings with stakeholders in each district to confirm administrative units that constitute the counties, state divisions, municipalities, and defining boundaries of these units. This data is what forms, this will form the primary data for the demarcation of 353 and 53 parliamentary constituencies. This is their statement released on 30th August 2020 on demarcation.
Of 300 and?
353.
And there is even a cut-off date for either new voters or people who like to change where they vote from. And that one was in December.
Last year.
Yes. Now you've created this new scenario. Where is the opportunity for anybody to choose where to belong? Because the Electoral Commission in December had a cut-off date.
Yes, and they completed the register.
Yes.
They even completed the display in February. The
Actually,
display
there was even a display
that
completed.
Margaret was talking about was completed in February.
And then, even elections have already taken place.
Yes, the special interest.
Nominations and so on. And you see, there is an electoral college.
Is this done for only the president? Because it will not affect the president. It is affecting the MPs.
Everybody.
The voter register.
Alternatively, Mr. Ramadan, you can dismantle this voting arrangement. The one we had here on the table. I think you just dismantle this voting.
So, you can see, that's how ready we are. We are
Actually, there are many things to see. Actually, I now also see why Electoral Commission has appeared.
That's how ready we are. Now, the last comment I wanted to make.
Please go ahead.
Is to my good friend, the Honorable.
But I think you need to also tell Margaret that your illustration has also brought us out very good pointers.
Oh, yeah.
That what her arguments are might be actually hard for the reality on the ground.
Yeah.
And so other...
Much as this table has not come from Kenya,
yes,
the kind of demarcation is not practical. It's not practical. Now, I want to end with also one comment.
Yeah.
You know, she said somewhere in her submission that there is no free and fair election anywhere
in the world.
In the world. You know, for us who are into research and so on, there is a new concept in the vocabulary of public discourse called whataboutism.
Whataboutism?
Whataboutism.
Is it new or that's something that
it's relatively
1948 almost?
Yeah.
Wasn't that a concept of the Second World War almost?
In terms of usage, it's been popularized by a guy at The Economist who has been using it so adequately to illustrate what, for example, Honorable Margaret is talking about. That since rigging and these other things happen elsewhere, then they should happen also in Uganda. That whenever you see a challenge happening, you quickly point at another and you say, what about US?
Almost.
Even
actually,
in the US
actually
it has
you can add another principle called rationalization as well to that, which is very dangerous.
So I don't think that we should encourage bad manners simply because they have happened elsewhere.
And I think Honorable Margaret needs to know that those bad manners in a way contribute to the bad elections that she talked about herself. Yeah, please go ahead.
I know some of us are suffering. She will tell us later that we are suffering from that very disease of rationalism. We think the world is irrational. Things should happen irrationally. But I think if we want to build a good democracy, a good future for Uganda, we need to start not condoning certain things. For example, this tendency of the parliament where the two honorables are sitting. I don't know how they voted on this issue of creating this illustration I've made, which is not practical. We need really to stop some of these things in this country if we want to move forward. Thank you.
Okay. It's not yet honorable. Sarah, you wanted to weigh in, especially in response to some of the issues that Honorable Margaret Mohanga raised. Many of them very feasible, but I think as the discussions here are showing, some of them are rather taken up by time. And so Electoral Commission, thank God they have missed being here. They should own up to some of the challenges that we now see, because most likely it will also cause problems.
Yes, Charles, the main issue, one is there's a contradiction in what Honorable Mohanga was saying. At the beginning, she said we cannot compare what happened in NRM primaries with the Electoral Commission, because the Electoral Commission is more organized and has infrastructure and budget and all the rest. Then at the end, she came and said what happened in NRM will obviously translate into, of course that's to some extent right. What happened in NRM, because we have same actors, the people who are causing chaos in NRM are national actors, are ministers, are MPs, they are national leaders, and they will be in the next election. But we also know that at times the impartiality of Electoral Commission gets compromised because of the general state capture of national institutions, especially the democratic institutions in this country. The institutions meant to promote democracy and rule of law are under state capture because of obvious reasons relating from a permanent incumbents and the rest of the issues. So when she says, as much as she's contradicting herself, when she says what happened in NRM will obviously translate, yes, and we are here to condemn that. If you have bad behaviors in your home and you are going to engage with visitors or other actors, please behave yourselves. Margaret, you're the spokesperson of the NRM Parliamentary Caucus. The people who were leading in violence, vote rigging, falsification of results are your members as party caucus. Please tell them we want a credible, free and fair elections as Ugandans. We want an election that can be easily quantifiable as to who Ugandans have chosen to govern them at several levels in this election.
Good. Honorable Margaret Mohanga, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, please, I do want to respond to that, and immediately.
Okay.
I think, Charles,
yes,
Sarah is actually quoting what the Honorable Abdu Katuntu said. I did not say that the political actors are the same and they are the ones who are going to translate the chaos, the anarchy that was in the NRM election. It is Abdu Katuntu who stated that. So I did not contradict myself anywhere. And I will still state that the NRM elections were disorganized by the way everybody was being stampeded. The only, what I said is that the National Electoral Commission is more organized. It has a lot of resources. Yeah. It has the infrastructure in place, well trained to run an election. The NRM was only handpicking people from villages that please be the registrar here and there. The National Electoral Commission has fewer places, voting stations. I said, for instance, every 3 villages or 2 form one electoral area, which is a lot easier for the Electoral Commission to manage. The Honorable Abdu Katuntu is the one who said that the political players are the same political players that will be in the national election. But let me tell you, you could manipulate the NRM Electoral Commission by falsifying results and you get away with it. You cannot do that in a national election. You'll be taken to court. People are taken to court for only giving 1,000 shillings, so 100,000 in a church. Somebody even made a pledge. My friend Winnie Masiko was removed from parliament for making a pledge after she was nominated of only 100,000 shillings to a church. And she was gotten out of parliament. So the National Electoral Commission people are more organized. Even the political players are more scared of making a mistake that may get them out of an election. But the NRM elections, you will not write to anybody. You cannot go to court over an NRM election. Whatever happens remains within the house. Very few people, I think there is only one person who challenged an NRM election in court and won it. That happened in Kegego district. It's the only one I know about. Somebody challenged the flag bearer and said, no, this person is not supposed to be a flag bearer. And the cases went on for a very long time. But you see, even the time in between our election and the national nominations is so short. We were voted on the 4th of September. The national nominations will be on the 12th and 13th. In between this time, nobody can run to court and get a ruling as quickly as that in 1 month. And so people are not, but even in the national one, when somebody wrongs you during the campaigns, you will lodge in a complaint, the person goes to parliament, 2 years down the road, that's when you get a ruling. And this person maybe is pulled out 1 year and a half, sometimes 2 years. Somebody was, I saw Betty Nambose saying she put in a petition in court, and the person was removed in the 6 months to the next general election. But she had been battling in court with this person. So for me, I think we really cannot compare the NRM election at all with the national election. They have all the infrastructure to hold a much better election, unless they don't want to. But there is no way they can fail to do that. They've been training people, they've been recruiting. I see a lot of adverts in the newspapers, and they are looking for the cream of this country to run this election. How would they then fail to have these very people they have picked and interviewed and used consultants to interview? I think they are going to get the best people to run this election. Okay. And also, what Sarah says that the display ended in December, I do not think that's true. You cannot nominate candidates, throw them into a campaign, and then they don't know where even their own voting stations are. I am very sure they will display this register. You cannot run an election without displaying a register prior to voting.
Honorable Margaret, as I was about to say, let's start winding up because we are left with barely 15 minutes to close the show. And then, as we were enjoying ourselves, the acting secretary and accounting officer of the Electoral Commission walks in. And let me...
What?
Yes.
What? We are remaining with a few minutes to close. Where were they?
We are very red as the Electoral Commission.
They thought there is curfew.
Honorable Abdu Katundu said this is how the Electoral Commission is ready. And now, let me still do the right thing and welcome Mr. Mulekwa Leonard. Is the acting secretary. I will give him a few minutes to respond to some of the issues. I am very patient and tolerant, but I must also say that whatever business he was held up doing, he must be a very humble citizen indeed, because he decided that he must still reach here, having promised to be here. So, Mulekwa, our show is about to end, and you have got us almost summarizing. But a number of the next to you is Sarah Birete. She is a member of the National Elections Watch Uganda and works with the Center for Constitutional Governance. Next to her is, you know, in these days of masking, you may not recognize people well. And next to her is Mr. Gobi Ramadan, who is our panelist on this show. And here is Honorable Abdu Katuntu, and the lady who is joining us through Zoom is also our panelist, Honorable Margaret Mohanga, who is one of your clients in the next election. one of your clients. Abdu has decided to step aside, and me, I'm not joining you as a client, so you should know who your clients are here as well. But Sarah is going to work very closely with you. Now, a number of issues came up, and I want to just go through some of them that you need now to respond to. One, the question of that voter update ended in December last year. So why are there fresh demarcations going on as we talk? And then Mr. Gobi asked the question whether you are ready for the next election. The issue of biometrics. Honorable Mohanga has raised the question, the doubt and the question over, you know, voter education not properly done, and whether the players will follow the rules, and whether you are up to the task. There is a question of, there is a major question of there were more invalid votes than some candidates actually got in the last election. That is by Gobi. And then he also asked the important sticking question of incumbency factor, that will you reign over service providers, including media owners, to ensure that there is enough space for every candidate equitably, not enough for all. There can never be enough for all. We are not equal, but in terms of equitable opportunity. And then Honorable Abdu raised the question of there was massive corruption in the NRM elections, bribery of voters, and then there were others who raised the question of violence. This NRM election was a national election, so the fear is, and the doubt, will the same happen in the coming election? Will you manage to rein in and ensure that actors do not break the rules? And then falsification of results, will it not also take place in this coming election? And then state-inspired violence, that's what also Abdu has referred to. And Abdu pessimistically talked about the fact that the NRM elections, which is national in its outlook, was very violent, but he describes it as a family affair. And in terms of the lessons learned, he actually says that we should brace ourselves for the worst, that this coming election is that you are going to superintend over, and the good thing you are the secretary, you are the in charge there to help the chairman and all your team. Now, Abdu says that it might be worse because now there, children of in-laws, children of step-parents are now coming in. How will you ensure that it is not done? And Sarah raised the question of a proper register, whether you have it or not, that there is doubt that you have it. And then, of course, you can answer the question. Someone online raised the question of senior officials of Electoral Commission who were fired recently, and said, were they fired or they resigned, as the information we got? So please, in about 3-4 minutes, you have the unenviable opportunity to respond to some of those, Mr. Mulekwa.
Thank you. Madam Director, so she may allow me to put this down. First, I'm sorry that I'm coming in at this time, but I've been on a similar program on Star TV, that's behind here. Not that I came here by design. As a person, I'm a very bad timekeeper, because when you give me time, I come 10 minutes earlier. And indeed, at Star, I was there half an hour earlier. Anyhow, why fresh demarcation yet update ended long ago? Elections is a process, it's not an event. And once you organize it as a process, you give each activity enough time. And I think one of the issues the NRM could have faced was the inadequacy in time to prepare some of the activities. Because I think the compilation of their register, the time given was short. In the past, we used to have this same problem as a country. And we went in and advised that we need to give each activity enough time. And that's why the commission came out in 2018 to launch a roadmap. At the time, many, including politicians, were saying, why so early? You know? But we thought that's the time so that everybody knows. Now today there are people who are saying, we don't know the election dates, but we launched the roadmap in 2018. When we went in COVID, we came out, we issued and rolled out a revised roadmap with dates for each activity, and these dates have not changed. Now when someone says, we don't know the dates, I don't know whether that one really wants to be a leader or is looking for excuses. Please, let's not look for excuses. The roadmap was launched, it is out there. So, the fresh demarcations, there was creation of new sub-counties, new town councils, and which had to be absorbed. Now, because of that, when these new areas are created, you find new parishes are created. And the law demands that each parish should have at least one polling station, depending on the number of voters. So, in the interest of absorbing this, we had to do that. However, the voters within there remain the same, because you might find that if there are 100 people in a parish and it has been divided, maybe one now parish will have 60, another and 40, as an example. Inadequate voter education. I think what Ugandans are talking about is civic education, not voter education. Because voter education, what is voter education? For example, I will tell you that on Monday, we have nominations for local governments starting. And this is going to go on up to 1st October. That's voter education. We elect local government leaders. What are they supposed to do as leaders? That is civic education. So what qualities should we look at in a leader to elect? That is civic education. So in terms of voter education, we are doing our part. It may not be adequate, but I think we are doing within the resources we have. As commission, and I think that's the main heading there, is the Electoral Commission ready? Yes, we are ready. You can see we rolled out, and at the time we rolled out, most people were saying, under COVID, we cannot have elections. And we have showed that we can have elections if we all decide so, to have elections safely. But I've seen some people who don't have to have, they don't want to have elections safely. Because, for example, people are saying, you have banned rallies, banning rallies that we have denied people their freedom to associate. Really, I think we need to look at this squarely. The issue of COVID-19, would we want to have free campaign and a sick community? If you are a leader, when you win and you have everybody in hospital, do we have the capacity to have everybody in hospital? Why don't we look at that? Do we want a healthy society? Yes. How do we get a healthy society and at the same time have our democratic rights? I think we need the balance. And the balance is, let's have the campaigns in a safe mode so that we are able to have the citizens safe and the leaders elected. So we are ready. We have the structure as Electoral Commission. We have the board, which is the commission, chaired by Justice Byabakama. We have a secretariat, which currently I head. We have a structure up to parish level. So, and all these are supposed to increase the number of eyes following up on the activities. Be it at, in this case, we are going, the next level is activities at polling station. If whatever is going on, even when we have the nominations, if you think at the nomination center, the returning officer is unfairly denying you nomination, there are channels. I don't think it is civil to engage in blows with the returning officer. There are enough controls in the law. How do you deal with the returning officer who wants to deny you a genuine nomination? As an example, the procedures are very many in the law. One of them, you can call any of us or any of the supervisors of this returning officer and say, what, I think I have all what it takes. And indeed, even after the closure of nomination, if a returning officer has denied you nomination, rightly which you qualify, the commission can look at your case, and if you qualify, the commission will declare you nominated. And this is provided for in the law. Let's not go into violence. So the structures we have in place, the laws, and the laws, Honorable Katuntu, they have participated in this. Our laws are more explicit. You don't have to be a lawyer really to understand the laws. Because if the law says display the register for 21 days, I don't think you need to be a lawyer to know that it's 21 days. And you don't need to be a mathematician to count 21 days. It's clear. And it's in the law. It's not about Electoral Commission determining. This is the law. That there are 2 days in which the commission will conduct nominations for members of parliament or for candidates who want to be presidents. This is in law. It's not about commission deciding how long the nomination period should be. This is law. And the commission tries so much to follow what's in the law. So given the legal framework, given the structures we have, given the level of preparedness, we have recruited staff, we are trained and we have not completed the training. We are yet to train the staff who are going to carry out polling activities on polling days. And we try to train them and inculcate the demands in the law. And of recent, Honorable Katuntu, that's the 10th Parliament, they have put in the law that should, at the end of the day, Electoral Commission staff be proved that you personally deviated from what the law demanded, you will be sued as an individual. I think all these are controls which whoever is aggrieved should be able to use instead of engaging in the fist fight. And really, as Commission, we condemn what we have seen in the characteristics that came out in the conduct of the NRM primaries. That's not civil. And I think as leaders, we need to restrain ourselves, even when you are stretched. And I think that's the time it has been said, if you want to know a good leader, you may need to stretch this leader and see how tolerant this leader is. I think we need to go that. However, I want to thank the youth. If you see the acts of violence, I think the youth, in most of the cases I've seen on the media platforms, are not there. Because in the past they have been saying it's the youth who engage in violence. And I think this time the people in the acts of violence were far outside the youth bracket. So I want to thank the youth for keeping out of violence, and I want to encourage them to continue out. Because this country, for us who are now of advanced age, we may be getting out of the scene. And the youth, by exhibiting patience, by loving a peaceful interaction, I think our country has better future in that aspect. Invalid votes, what we saw, if you looked at what constituted invalid votes, there are people, I turn up, maybe I want to vote only the president. But then because that day, you must vote the president, you vote the woman representative, you vote the constituency MP. If I'm not interested in none of them, we found the ballots where someone got a ballot paper and put it in the ballot box. No mark. It's invalid. Does that mean this person did not know what to do? Because that's what has been the criticism, that the invalid is because the Electoral Commission did not educate. That's not true. People know, but they decide. Some of them, we say, put a tick or thumbprint. He writes across, no sense. Doesn't that person know? I think they know what they are doing. They intentionally invalidate the ballots. Yes, they were high, and we don't encourage it, and we are coming out to show. The law says it's either a tick or a thumbprint. And when we are teaching, we say, put one tick. It's enough. Someone puts about 20. In the process, they mark all over the paper.
They overlap the candidate.
It becomes invalid. And we look at this as intentional invalidation of the process. If you really want to vote your candidate, put one tick in the box, period. The power of incumbency, is that how it was put? Well, me, I think being an incumbent is a disadvantage. Honorable Katuntu will bear with me. Because you are measured. An entrant has nothing to be measured on. There is no yardstick. But when you're an incumbent, it's you they are measuring on. That you said, we'll do this. All the shortcomings the community has, if there is limited water sources, if there are no seats in schools, if there are all these problems, they will be blamed on the incumbent. So I think incumbents is a disadvantage in a way. But at times it's a strength. For example, for purposes of presidential elections, the law says a sitting president, if he's a candidate, is allowed to declare the facilities ordinarily used and is allowed to use them. Doesn't that provide an edge? But it's in law. Because I've seen people blaming the commission why they allow the president to have a convoy. But this is in law. And I think in that aspect, it becomes an advantage. But to the public, incumbents, in most cases, from what we hear, they try to compare the performance, while an entrant has nothing to be compared with. As EC, the law demands that we give equal treatment to candidates, and so is media. And particularly, the law demands that media houses, more so government media houses, should give equal time. We are preparing to sit with the Uganda Communications Commission, National Broadcasters Association, and other media house owners, and draw out a program that gives that equal share of time. For the private media houses, we are trying to bring them on board so that there is that equality. But of course, you know some of the challenges. Maybe in an area it's the only radio, it's only one of them is a candidate, and the others are going to campaign on that. I'm not sure they may have equal time with an owner, and then the others, even if they are going to campaign there. NRM primary versus the National Electoral Commission. I think the level of preparedness of us as a Uganda Electoral Commission and NRM Electoral Commission is not the same. And I'm not sure they have the structure we have. Even in terms of level of training of personnel, I don't think it's the same. However, if Ugandans decide that they will have a violent election, they will have it. The onus of a peaceful, free and fair election is not on the Electoral Commission. It's on all players in the electoral process. And the political parties actually have a more demand on their shoulders for a peaceful election because they have a following and they're the ones who incite.
I've been inviting them, and we are going to be inviting them to ask them to do their part.
Exactly.
To ensure that the violence is avoided. So can you, as Electoral Commission boss, do your part to assure them that for us what our roles are in Article 61 are 1, 2, 3, and we shall ensure that we shall act and do those roles. The rest are yours.
We are going to do our role impartially. We are going to do our roles treating all candidates equally. And when we say equal treatment, what does it mean? If you come to our office, you want information, irrespective of the party you belong to, we give you the information. If you come for whatever, and that's why when you turn up for nomination, it doesn't matter to us which party you come from. As long as you meet the requirements of that office, we nominate you. When you score the highest, to us it doesn't matter which party. We announce whoever obtains the highest. And these are the things as the Electoral Commission we pledge to do, because that's what the law demands on us. And I would add on that the issue of falsification of results. The controls in the law, and that's why I said our laws are good. There are a lot of controls. For example, polling day, what's the control? The law allows political parties, the law allows candidates to deploy agents. What's the purpose of the agents? To ensure that the activity is conducted in compliance with the law. Unfortunately, many agents who are deployed are not aware of what the law says. We have had a challenge with political parties. We have asked you to train their agents. they are not willing to present their agents for us to train. Now, many of them turn up at the polling station and they cannot, follow. I've seen a temptation, agents to be deployed with exercise books, and they're trying to write the names of the people who are passing to vote. And I've advised parties many times, you get my mother, who has taken so many years without writing, you deploy and you give her an exercise book. How many people will she write? 3 people pass and she's writing 1 person. Because she takes time to scribble the names. And we have advised this. We give them the registers. Why don't you just mark on the register that Mleko has passed, Odongtho has passed, Katuntu has passed, instead of asking them to write names? Because those exercise books can never balance with the register. Why do we give the copy of the register? And it's photo-bearing. And that's also a control. So that at the end of the day, you can also know how many people have actually voted. The DRF4, it's the biggest tool on polling day. I want to ask parties and candidates to press it upon the agents to account for their deployment. And the only way of accounting for being deployed as an agent is to return a DRF form. Once they return a DRF form, and in cases where this has happened, because how do we begin to tally? That when we open an envelope at a tally center, the returning officer reads out the results on the DRF form as the envelope is opened. And in most cases, when the candidates are there, they compare. As I read, so-and-so scored this, so-and-so scored this. The candidates are there comparing. And in most cases, if there is an issue, they would raise it.
Okay.
So we go up the end, tallying ends. Before you announce, it is calm. Everybody has agreed. What is on their DRF form is what you are reading. Immediately you announce that so-and-so has won. Now chaos starts. Says, Banzivi, they have cheated me. But when we were tallying, the process, everybody was agreeing that the results you are reading are the results we have. So in our case, falsification of results can be controlled. Let the agents be there. Let them witness the filling of the forms. Let them get a copy of the DRF form and they return the copy to the candidate or to the political party office. Okay. I think in that way we should be able to control falsification of results. State-inspired violence, I don't want to call it state-inspired, but they are also individuals. I think what we have been seeing is individuals who are inspiring.
No,
for whatever
question
reason.
Was a question from, a concern from Honorable Katuntu. Yeah, I wanted to put it the way he put it, so maybe he has evidence of it.
Well, I don't know.
You know, he's a senior lawyer. He usually doesn't talk minus evidence.
Yeah, I can't doubt that. But from what I've been seeing on media platforms, because these are cases which you could see that individuals, either because they realize they are losing or they are being told they engage into acts that are not called for. And I think if I was the one by now, even immediately the following day when you sleep and wake up, for me as a Catholic, I'm told to do what? To ask for forgiveness. You declare that I have sinned and therefore forgive me. Proper register. Well, we went through the processes as the law demands. We updated, we displayed, and we advised where they think this person is not known in the community, and we have been cleaning the register. I hope it will be clean. But we have seen in the past there are cases where you are there and some people say, I think Honorable Katuntu doesn't belong to this village. Now for us, when a tribunal signs and says Honorable Katuntu doesn't belong to Idudi, we shall delete. Because the tribunal confirms, because these are the people on the ground. And these are all procedures provided in the law. For me, as Electoral Commission, the example and the sad one I would give is many times, I think one time a member of parliament died, and they were asking us to remove. For us, we may even attend the burial. We don't know about the death. Because the procedure in the law, if I removed that person without an objection from the community, Honorable Katuntu, these chambers will take me on. that have not followed the procedure. Compliance of the law is not about knowing, it's about following the procedure. So we normally ask the community, tell us whoever is not supposed to be on the register. If there are dead persons on the register, it's not the Electoral Commission keeping them there, it's the community. Because the law demands that the community should tell us, and so that we are able to do that. Finally, briefly, you talked about the dismissal of EC staff. I'm not aware of anybody who has been dismissed.
Someone was asking, were they dismissed or they retired? Early retirement.
The best of my knowledge, they asked for early retirement on personal grounds. And maybe what I can say is these are known people in the community. And I'm sure some of them, people could be having their contacts. For whoever really wants to confirm, I think if they talked to them, I'm sure they would confirm to them whether they were dismissed or they voluntarily left the institution.
And then another person called Gloria Guitabinji asked, where is the 10 billion shillings meant for political party activities that they were complaining about it, they have not been given? That why are you using it now as if it is yours?
Sorry to first laugh. Yeah.
I mean,
by law, parties in parliament are entitled to government funding. This funding is channeled through Electoral Commission. Electoral Commission can only disperse what is given to them. I'm sure even in your home, if you have not bought meat and you want the wife to serve you meat, I don't know that that's possible. So we don't have...
Muntu calls it, you can't give what you don't have.
What you don't have.
So you don't
we have not received
just
any...
confirm you don't have it
We have not received any political party fund.
Okay.
And normally when we receive...
You dispatch.
We disperse it.
Okay.
Because it's not our money.
Good. Now, for fairness purposes, thank you so much, Mr. Leonard. We really appreciate whatever difficulty you went through. It's a tough time for you, I know. But for fairness purposes, I'm going to just allow now the members to just make, let's do 30 seconds each. Final comments, and then I will ask Mulekwa just 1 minute, and then we sign out. Let's start with Honorable Margaret Mohanga.
Please.
Just in 30 seconds, make a final comment, whether you want to ask Mulekwa a question or you just want to make a final question. We need to get out of here. In 30 seconds.
Yes, my final question to Mr. Mulekwa is that, are they going to display the voters register and for how long? Because people need to know where they are voting from. Like I said earlier, not everybody is online and can check online. There are many people who want to know their voting stations since there are new demarcations. Kindly tell us.
Okay, thank you. Just write them down, and then I come to Honorable Katuntu.
Well, listen to my brother, Mr. Mulekwa. I do remember the very words Dr. Tango Doi used before the NRM election. He was ready, everything was in place. I think a week before. A week later, I mean, he didn't look very good. I hope my brother, Mr. Mulekwa, will not look the way Dr. Tango Doi looked after the NRM primaries.
That's a question. It's a doubt, but a question, so you will answer it. I need you to answer that question. Mr. Gobi.
No, a quick one. In the past, the Electoral Commission has been accused of acting secretively. That you are so secretive in the way you operate. You don't provide full information to especially the participants in the opposition. How ready are you now to give full information, given that this time the election is scientific.
Good, thanks. Gobi, finally, Sarah Birete.
Yeah, Charles, I have, I think, two quick comments for the acting secretary of the EC. One is related to what Honorable Katuntu has said, the readiness. I think the fear in an ordinary voter's mind is what happened in 2016 elections. In Kampala and Wakiso, where you failed to deliver materials on time, nearest to your headquarters, and the absence of a national tally center in Nambole, which was even confirmed in the election petition. So how ready are you, and what difference should people expect in this election? Are we going to see anything worse than what we saw in 2016, or are you preparing to offer us a better election? Then second, I think we need a comment on the biometric system. The president has been saying that you have now procured the upgrade that missed in the 2016, where the machines you used could not save the voter information that could have been used to verify how the Ugandans voted in the election petition of Amamambabas. So are you now procuring a biometric system that can host the voters' register and at every machine, or what type is it? What type of election are Ugandans going into? And as I conclude, Charles, elections are about Ugandans. The citizens have a duty to participate in the elections at all levels, to ensure the elections are peaceful, but also to observe, monitor, and ensure that we quantify who the mandate of the people has gone to as who should govern them in the next 5 years. So let's all play our role.
It's true.
Okay, finally, Mr. Mulekwa, there is a question from someone who says, I think it is in relation to the space that you are trying to get, that you initially as Electoral Commission first gave the business to Space Holdings at 6 billion, and that it was it increased to 16.9 billion shillings before your officials were fired. That's what the person is saying. And the person is saying, are you going to cancel that business which was inflated? And then, just to hammer her point, I got a comment from the president's statement recently. And he said, and I'm quoting him, President Museveni, we must have a digital recognition of voters using the biometric machine. This was supposed to be done in the previous election, that is 2016. But the corrupt fellows in EC who were sacked recently bought machines which did not do this. The corrupt team, that is the president saying, that was in EC refused to procure this system. It is, however, now being procured. This will end this sad story of the anti-democratic forces, at least as far as the problem of multiple voting and multiple registrations is concerned. That is from the president himself. So you can answer her, but with this in mind, that the president himself is saying that these officials were sacked for corruption. So it is not true what you are saying, that they retired.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles. I think, like my sister said, all citizens have a duty. You know, we normally talk of rights, but I think they have a duty.
And they are supposed to go with responsibility.
And one of the responsibilities is to register as a voter. But I'm also adding another one, is to follow the electoral process. Because when we rolled out the roadmap, we showed the periods and dates for each of the activities. Just before I went into lockdown, we had just ended the display of the voters register. And remember at that time we were going into activities of nomination for special interest groups. So we did display the register. For the new town councils where we have just carried out this activity, we are going to send information there so that they know which polling station, and we are going to inform the whole country also.
You are going to display again?
We are going to inform them about the voters, the polling stations.
Using what method?
Is it a display? Because what the law requires is a display. That's what
we are not displaying the NVR. We did display the NVR as by law required.
It's a new one.
It's not a new register.
My experiment.
No? Just check the law.
Yeah, it's not a new register. True. EC acts secretly.
My experiment.
I don't think there is anything secret, because when we give our information, we give it public. For example, when we launched the roadmap, we invited all opposition, government, civil society, media, and we put our documents clear, and we even put them on our website. So I don't know whether anybody is restricted on that aspect. Like we are here talking, I'm not sure we address a particular organization or party, because when we are giving our information, we address press conferences, and the media, I'm sure when they put there, whoever wants to listen and follow is able to do that. So there is no secret information we provide to any group. And whoever wants information, even after we have done that, and wants details, many write to us and we give the information. Some come to us and we give oral information. Where we are giving general information via press conferences, we do it and address the whole country. So we don't give any secret information to any given group.
Okay.
Delay in delivery of materials, yes, last time there was that delay, which we regretted, and there were lessons there. I know we condemned. We failed to deliver 8 polling stations in time, and going forward, I want to assure the country, and I want to assure my brothers and sisters here, and assure the country that we are working on that, and we promise this will not happen. We shall deliver materials in time at all polling stations. And it's not true that there was no tally center. There was a national tally center at Nambole, which did the collating of results from the various districts, which we used to declare the person whom emerged the winner for presidency. BVVK, I think going forward, I think we shall come with detailed information on the BVVK we are procuring. The procurement process is on, and we shall engage stakeholders. We shall carry out demonstrations, and people test, so that we don't just say, but they will also test it to know, is it going to do what we are saying? I'm sure we shall have specific sessions on BVVK, so that people feel, once it is delivered, what is it exactly going to do. Space holding 6 versus 16. I don't know whether I have information on this. I don't have any information whether there was inflation, there was, maybe I can find out. Maybe being new in the office, I don't know. But I will find out whether there was inflation. But, you know, procurements are contractual in nature. And I'm sure the land friends will explain this better. That if it is contractual, I don't know whether you can cancel if someone has delivered, for example. So, however, I don't have information whether it was inflated or not. So I don't want to comment much on that. Otherwise, Charles, I want to thank you and my sister and all the panelists, Honorable. I want to thank you and all our viewers and listeners for this brief. You'll forgive me for rapping the way I was responding. I was trying to touch each and every question. I'm sure next time And I've been here. I was here before, and we had enough time. For today, I started on Star FM. That's why maybe I appeared here late. So as I said earlier, all the same, we do apologize for maybe giving the listeners on this platform less time than we would have loved. Otherwise, Monday, we have nominations for local governments at all levels, from Lord Mayor down to a councillor to a sub-county, beginning on Monday 21st up to 1st October. Please, let's use that period to present our papers to our returning officers. For sub-county level chairpersons and councillors, the nominations will be at respective county headquarters. For district chairpersons, it will be at the district returning officers. Please present your nomination papers there, get nominated, and we go to the field and ask for the votes. But as we campaign, please remember COVID-19 is around. Let's campaign and ask for vote safely. For those who want to hold campaign meetings, in our guidelines we have said you are free to conduct them, provided you follow the SOPs in place for the mitigation of the spread of COVID-19. And which are these? The venue you are holding the meeting in should allow for enough spacing. There should be facilities for hand washing. People should be wearing face masks, and we should have sanitation facilities, because going to the toilet is a natural phenomenon. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leonard Mulekwa. I want to thank you so much for your time. Thanks to Sarah Birete, thanks to Gobi Ramadan. Thanks so much, Honorable Abdu Katuntu. And through Zoom, I want to thank Honorable Margaret Mohanga for being available. To all the rest of the team, the entire production team, and the technical team here, and especially you out there, the most important person, the viewer. We have been on live across the country on more than 5 radio stations under UBC, and this is UBC Behind the Headlines. Until next week, God bless you, and keep safe, keep away from COVID, and ensure that you social distance, and try as much as possible to wear a mask if when in public, and keep safe. Bye-bye. God bless all of us.
This weekend on UBC.
Goal! Goal! What a celebration! Yeah, I'm the best.
But you're always the best on everything.
Tazikiza tafuata baza. Amikisa jogira badiringisa. Every poacher, what a couple was a thing, accept. Be a believer. You got to chase your dreams whenever. Even if you're depressed, you have fever. You got to succeed all over. Cause always you have God's favor.
Now, fresh kid. Nsaze wonkuletere KPS kano okategeera bulungi.
Yeah, ndi mucha.
Ali muzanyi ki mu Barcelona gwosinga okwagala?
Ne munsi yonna. Ali mu Barcelona ye Messi.
Naye okimanyi Messi yali avudde mu Barcelona.
Yali
avudde. What?
Mwana nagamyo ntere mugagundi yekuba engatto.
Oh, si yekuba engatto.
Brought to you by
Hammam Spa and Salon is located at Fairway Hotel. For bookings, contact us on Hammam Spa and Salon, Drift to Serenity.
wrong with the instruction?
To lose your temper within man. It's gotta be something other than kidnapping people.
Maybe in America. Maybe in America.
Go ahead. Only boss story. Cool?
No. No, it's not cool.
Cool.
No, it's not cool.
Tired?
Yeah.
And maybe it's time to try something new.
You really need to see this. Large operation.
Let's go fishing.
Proceed to run.
Bottom.
Hilarious.
Large operation.
Hello, my name is Dr. Henry Dungu, a consultant in hematology and oncology. Health promotion and disease prevention programs focus on keeping people healthy. They aim to engage and empower individuals and communities to choose healthy behaviors and make changes that reduce the risk of developing chronic diseases and other illnesses. Join me on New Health Chat every Thursday at 9 p.m. on UBC TV, sponsored by National Medical Stores, who are mandated to procure, store, and distribute essential medicines and medical supplies to all public health facilities in the country.
Uganda, the land of sunshine. Breathtaking, stunning sights, incredibly extensive large greenery.